Welcome into another episode of Double Coverage. I'm Michael Emami.
I'm Asia Cymone Smith.
And Asia, pretty interesting week so far for K-State and KU. We'll get to the Jayhawks in a little bit, but I want to open the floor with K-State and Jerome Tang. Just a rough day on Wednesday for the Wildcats. Still winless in conference play.
Right. An unbelievable 0-4 start. First time since the 2021-22 season.
Yeah.
They've started this poorly when it comes to Big 12 play. Falling to UCF. Now, that is a team that KU also lost to, but this game was definitely not the performance they had hoped for. And we have to remember what Jerome Tang was saying is that he wants his guys to be playing together better. They haven't been really sharing the ball as much as he wants them to. PJ Haggerty putting up a lot of points every single week. This was another one where he led the team in shooting with 23. So he's been showing up. He's been a valuable shooter, but are they working together? I guess that's the question that they really need to ask. And what is it that they can do to get out of this slump?
They attack the glass pretty well. PJ Haggerty, obviously one of the best scorers in the nation, and he shows up every single game. I don't think there's been a game that I've seen him where he hasn't led in scoring at this point, taking a look at the stats. But Abdi Bashir had a pretty good run on Wednesday as well with how he looked from the corner pocket there on your screen. I just think right now the issue is really it's that second half. You know, they put themselves behind the eight ball. They come back. They played fairly well, and then UCF was able to break away on the back end a little bit. But the thing is that Central Florida had such a good start, it was hard for K-State to hang in the game. So they were behind at the start of this thing.
That's what I was thinking. You know, the second half is very important, but the fact that they were so far behind after one half of play, that didn't help. In the second, they were able to battle back from a 16-point deficit and made the game within one possession multiple times. But because UCF was able to rally back time and time again, that set them apart. And so it really comes to starting out strong, hopefully having a lead going into the locker room so you don't have to worry as much about making a comeback. You never want to be in that position that late in the game.
And they look strong on the glass, though. And one thing that Jerome Tang kind of talked about, several times, as you had just mentioned, was the concept of them really starting to play together. Obviously, PJ Haggerty, again, is a star consistently on the floor, but he did make some added comments on Wednesday night. We're going to play him now.
We got to develop more of a desperation. I just watched games yesterday and watching games today. You know, the most desperate teams win. You know, the bunch of other teams in our situation, and they were all more desperate than their opponent and was able to get wins. And we didn't start the game. We didn't play the whole game more desperate than them. There were certain times that we did, but there was times that we didn't. And so just have to develop a greater desperation to change this thing and fix it. And we're moving in that direction, and we will get there.
And so, yeah, he was kind of talking about that concept, Asia. But really, I think that's what it goes into it so far.
Oh, absolutely. And I really want to see this team kind of changing what they're doing. Now, I do want to say this is progress, but I think they can still do better. You know, this game, they had a lot of assists, and I think that was progress because Coach Tang has talked about how he wants to see them sharing. Now, this one, they had 25 assists, which is the most in any of their conference games so far. And if you look back at the rest of their games this year, majority of their wins, I will say, were all when they had over 20 assists in a game. And a lot of those losses come when they're down around 15, 14 assists. So that was something that they have improved on.
And I do like seeing, the fact that they're in a lot of these games. I think there's something to be said for how well that they're starting to gel at least a little bit each and extra time. Because I think when he made those comments about how these guys are all buddies off the floor, that's really I think the biggest challenge is to getting your guys together. And so that's got to translate to being on the court. And I did see some things I liked out of that UCF game, as you had mentioned, the assists, the ball movement, those are so crucial. But it's kind of like that same issue with Darren Peterson a little bit in KU. It's like they got to figure out how to play together and kind of spread the ball a little bit. You had PJ Haggerty consistently leading in performances down the stretch, and to his credit, he's a phenomenal player and one of the leading scorers, again, in this nation. But I think in the nation, rather, I just think that so far you got to see, guys like Abdi Bashir step up, Nate Johnson step up. Bashir, we saw a little bit of that window open up on Wednesday night, and Johnson's obviously a huge presence inside the paint. So we'll see if they're able to materialize a little bit going forward here in conference play, and hopefully that translates to another win for the Wildcats. We do have the Sunflower Showdown coming up on the 24th, which is only a little bit over a week away, Asia, which is insane to even think about. But that's a matchup I've really got my eye on, not just for the state of Kansas, but also for, the state of K-State and how they handle KU and the productivity that they've been putting out.
Exactly. But, K-State still has a couple more matchups to get through, Oklahoma State and Utah. And we have to talk about how difficult the Big 12 is to win in.
Yeah.
And we've seen even Kansas, when they were ranked, they are struggling in this conference as well. So this is a competitive field. It's not just the Wildcats, not playing to their best, but this is a tough league to win in. So, Oklahoma State, they're 1-3. So that could be a possibility for K-State to bust the slump, get back in the winning column. And of course, when you think about the Sunflower Showdown coming up, you want to see them able to find a win before they have to face their crosstown rival in KU, because that would be incredible to break your streak in that game. But, hopefully you get that confidence booster before you're there.
And you have really the bench on Wednesday not producing a whole lot. You've got Castillo with 5. He had 21 minutes played and 5 points. So I think, right now when you've got 6 in total from the bench, in particular, that's really a struggle. You need more productivity from your bench, and you need people other than PJ Haggerty to step up, even though he had 23, McGriff with 15, Bashir with 12, Manning with 10, and Nate Johnson obviously with 7. So that bench has got to be able to step up a little bit more than that, and I think that's also part of the problem that they're having, and they're going to need to get those issues corrected over these next 2 games.
Yeah, that's definitely what I want to see, and I think they have the time to make the progress. Now, I talked about Oklahoma State, but also Utah. They haven't gotten a win in the league either, so, these are definitely chances and opportunities to make that progress, make those changes in practice and adjustments. Hopefully, Coach Tang able to figure it out, able to scout their competition, and help these guys get back in the winning column.
The Big 12 is really tough this year.
It is.
I think it always is, though. We've heard Bill Self say that numerous times, like the Big 12 is the toughest conference to play in. The Big 10's pretty tough, too. You've just got a really overall competitive league this year, and I think that's why you see it a lot harder for, KU as well. They were taken out of the top 25 last week, so it's got to knock you a little bit. But K-State, they came in with such high expectations this year, and even in that non-conference slate, I think they didn't quite play to their level that I think that we had expected them to play going into this season. But I think conference play so far, I'm just shocked. I thought they would make more of a game out of Arizona. Didn't quite do that, but then Arizona State was the one where I kind of got stumped on. That loss really tight. I think it was a 3-point loss. So it's like, when you have that being an issue, does that kill your confidence going into a home slate where you have the crowd already behind you?
I feel like it could. It definitely could when you suffer those kind of losses. And Bramlage is a nice place to play in for the home team. We've seen them beat KU there. We've seen them beat other teams in this facility. And so over 7,000 people in attendance when they played UCF. And it is surprising to see that struggle, and it could definitely be because of those previous games. And like I said, confidence goes a long way. And when you haven't quite figured out what's going wrong, that doesn't necessarily help your confidence too much. So I do think it's going to be important. Now, Wildcats, they will be back at home in 2 of their next 3 games, including the Sunflower Showdown.
Right.
So, again, still figuring things out in those pieces. They got one more road trip going down to Stillwater.
Yeah, and we will be at the Sunflower Showdown.
Oh, yeah.
So we are very excited
Can't miss that.
To bring that to you on KSN. But yeah, Bramlage Coliseum, they call it the Octagon of Doom for a reason. It's such a tough place to play. And we showed you at the beginning of this clip, the student section obviously really gets into it towards the beginning of it too. So to me, this just seemed like the perfect game for K-State to win. And it's such a disappointment to see them obviously come up short. But you got to give credit to where credit is due. UCF, they played a heck of a game on Wednesday night.
They absolutely did. And that team, has now beaten both of our Sunflower State teams. So, it's definitely going to be tough when, the second round of conference play comes around and they're playing each other again. Now, Wildcats know what to expect. Hopefully, they've made progress up until that point, and they are able to topple this Knights team that's not proving to be an easy one. They're 3-1 in the conference right now. So one of the stronger teams actually leading the way.
One of the more complete players on this squad, though, to me, is just fascinating, is Nate Johnson. I like Abdi Bashir outside the arc. He's got a good inside game, but Nate Johnson brings so much presence in the paint. You've got his physicality, you've got his ability to kind of outrun people, and he can make a great shot outside the perimeter. So he's really a hugely complete player on this squad. Haggerty's like that too. You've seen him go on some runs a little bit. Very consistent scorer, I would say. Johnson's defense is pretty solid, but he's got to be a guy I've got my eye on to really sort of step forward for this team if they're going to get into that top 25 that we know they can be.
I believe so too. And actually, speaking of Johnson, he had the most assists in this game against UCF. So not only getting to the hole, but also being able to pass it to his teammates and find those guys who can score. He is really being a clutch player, and he's somebody that shouldn't be overlooked. When we talk about Haggerty and we talk about some of these other guys, can't overlook Johnson as well.
Yeah, and you see the stat line right there for you. 9 points separating the two of them, and UCF out shooting K-State 52-44. 3-point field goals there were obviously a problem too. You've got a lot of outside shots that were not falling for K-State, so you got to have that new renowned focus or renowned focused on getting it done inside the paint, and that's where I think Nate Johnson has that ability and that presence, is being able to essentially run guys down and attack downhill, which I think they're going to need a lot more of as they get deep into conference play so far.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree.
I'm nervous. I don't know what's going to happen. I have no idea how Utah is going to go, and I have no idea how Oklahoma State's going to go. It's like an old division rivalry. It's just anybody's got a shot, and all records are out the window.
You never know. You never know what's going to happen, especially at this point in the season. You can beat a ranked team one week, and you can lose to a team that hasn't won a game all season the next. So it really is kind of just depends on how you prepare, how you go into it, and what pieces start to click. And at one point in the game, that does happen.
I gotcha. All right, K-State. Big slate of games coming up for them. We're going to keep track of that for you. And obviously the 24th of January is the Sunflower Showdown, and we're excited to bring that to you in just over a week. But when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit of KU men and KU women, a star-stud standout for the Jayhawks. She's got her name all over conference play. We're back right after this. Welcome back into double coverage. Mike Emami.
Asia Cymone Smith.
And Asia, we're not done with this slate just yet. We've got the team from Lawrence we're now going to be talking about, the KU Jayhawks. And they had themselves quite the night earlier this week against Iowa State in a game that no one thought they were going to win. Never mind blow out by 20-plus points.
And how about that? The week they drop out of the top 25 on the AP poll, they go and hand the Cyclones their first loss of the season. What an incredible performance. A surprise victory. And you got to even mention that this wasn't even Darren Peterson's best stat line.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't even his best game. I mean, the Iowa State, when Bill Self talked to the media post-game, he said that they did a really good job eliminating him on offense, and they were able to play him quite well. He did get a couple buckets in this game, obviously. Not a complete, game for him that evening. But I will say, shout out to, obviously, Trey White, who, put up 10 rebounds, 19 points, got a double-double, looked great from beyond the arc, and had, I think it was a streak of 4 or 5 straight three-point shots. So he looked unbelievable from the outside. And then, you go down the line. Melvin Council also stepping up, 15 points for him. FB, great game as well. And then, Tiller, he played pretty solid from the inside, overall. So this team, he talked about 2 weeks ago how KU was unable to play with Peterson on the floor as a complete whole team. They don't know how to play with him just yet.
Right.
And how there was some concern about, guys laying off the gas pedal to try and give Peterson the spotlight. And now you sort of seeing Peterson stepping up in the assist game, and you kind of see a different slate for KU. It looks overall just better play, and that's what translated, I think, to the dominance that we saw out there.
And we have to remember, Bill Self is not new to knocking out some of the best teams in the nation, no matter how the Jayhawks are standing.
Yeah.
13-2 against AP top 5 teams when they're at home at Allen Fieldhouse. That's Bill Self. So incredible. And 5-0 against number 2 teams now. So something about that number 2, you got to be careful when you're coming into Lawrence, Kansas, because that Allen Fieldhouse is not the place you want to be. And the Jayhawks finally getting this very big win. They've been an incredible team as well, but also back and forth. But to take down number 2, my goodness, and for all the guys to be stepping up, sharing the floor, and each contributing in their own ways, that was very, very good to see from them. And you have to talk about also the Cyclones are one of the best teams when it comes to ball security, but the Jayhawks were able to force 10 first-half turnovers and only committed 2 of their own. And so that was a big part of the spark of them finding a nearly 20-point lead by halftime, was being able to take the ball the other way and find ways to score.
Yeah, and I said this on our airwaves too. There wasn't a stat line that KU didn't dominate.
Right.
I mean, from rebounds to 3-point percentage, from field goal percentage, from assists. I mean, the entire stat line was basically all Jayhawks, and that's going to happen when you've got to win by 21 points. And Iowa State, I'll give them some credit. In the beginning of that second half, they narrowed the deficit to about 8. They came back with a vengeance. But KU was able to kick it into high gear again, and they were able to do it out of a timeout. And you know the noise had impacted it, because the way that they were trying to get things set up and shuffle, they just looked very disorganized and off. And I think they were intimidated being in Allen Fieldhouse. And I as I had talked about before, I think records go out the door in this case. And I think the other thing that intrigues me here, this is the first game that KU played outside the top 25 this season. Mm-hmm. And I also said, you want to take me out of the top 25? I'm going to hold one of the best teams, the second best team in the country, to just 63 points and a high-flying offense and make them look completely out of sync, which is exactly what happened on Tuesday night. And I think KU right now is going to go on a bit of a run after this.
I want to see it. I definitely do want to see it. The road ahead isn't easy, but now 2-2 in conference play, so got to 500. And this is definitely a point in time where they can start turning the wheel over and starting to, shift the momentum, find those wins, climb to the top, and figure out ways to win, regardless of Peterson's standing and Peterson's availability and minutes that he's able to have. So I think really putting these pieces together. Trey White, huge performance from him, and he has been shooting well from 3. He has been a standout from deep on the court, so he's a valuable shooter. Flory Badunga, also great down low, and they have the pieces. And I've been saying that they had the pieces. It was really just about putting them together in a way that works and allows them to come out with these wins, and that's what we saw.
And you got Melvin Council going viral on X for a new meme that was born out of this, slamming the chest as he's going down the other way, and that's. Bill Self talked about Council too, throughout this season. He's one of the guys that can play pretty much a complete game. He doesn't even sit down in timeouts. I mean, he is just ridiculous. The amount of attrition he has, there is no off switch for him.
Absolutely
and
not.
He played on Tuesday like there was no off switch for him, and that's why I think really this group, with Peterson, obviously they're championship caliber. They're solid. But even without him necessarily stepping into that spotlight, you look at Peterson playing more of a role player as opposed to the star on Tuesday, and that was a very outside the box kind of moment. But he solidified well. They gelled well with that, and there was really no stud on their court outside of Trey White, obviously making the 5 straight 3-pointers. It just really, they seemed like a complete team for the first time this year. And I think I agree with, with what ESPN was kind of talking about. They were saying it was the best performance, most complete that they had seen from KU the entire season, the entire year.
And I want to know what you think about that, because for them to be this kind of hot and cold, 2-2 in the conference right now, but be able to go in and take down the number 2 team in the nation, one of the few remaining undefeated teams in the nation, and by a blowout victory.
Yeah.
What does that say about this Jayhawk team? Do you think that they are going to succeed as we get deeper into the season and deeper into tournament season, when it gets closer to the Big 12 tournament and the NCAA tournament? Do you think that they're going to still make it despite earning some losses that they shouldn't have had?
Well, I don't want to say this was an outlier, because I really hope this isn't an outlier, because I think for the game that will be out on the 24th, you want this to be a matchup between 2 ranked teams. Mm-hmm. As of right now, for K-State, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. But for KU, here's what I think. This team has the capability to go far in the tournament. Do I think they're the number 1 team in the country right now? No, I don't. I think Arizona is deserving of that spot. I think Iowa State is still deserving of a top 10 slot just because they had one bad game. That doesn't mean that should completely knock them out of the rankings from that number 2 spot. I think KU's got a long way to go. They have to start essentially learning how to play with Peterson. I think Tuesday night was a step forward. They really shocked the world. They went out, they made a statement. They knew what they had to do on the floor that night. But there is still more I need to see from Bill Self's squad before they take that next step and that next leap. People came out beginning of the season and the team seemed a little bit flat-footed and everyone was saying, okay, this is one of the worst KU teams we've seen in a long time. I don't believe that. I think this is a group of largely unproven talent that we're looking at right now that is trying to gel and mend together as a really solid Elite 8 bound group. And I think that they have that capability, and Iowa State was a step in the right direction. I need to see more of that from Baylor, which is happening Friday at 7 o'clock. That's a game where I need to see this performance carry over into. And so if they do that, then we can start saying, okay, this is where they're at right now. We can see them taking a top 5 slot in the AP.
I agree. I think this stat line definitely shows that they're learning to play with Peterson, like you said, and that's definitely something we haven't seen because every time he takes the floor, he is leading them in scoring by a mile.
Yeah.
And so for him to have had 16 points and for other guys, even Trey White to have more, to have 18, and to see everyone's points kind of in the same range. It wasn't like Peterson was carrying the team and shooting in this one. That shows that they are, like you said, figuring out how to work with a star guy like that and how to have him in a role that benefits everyone. Doesn't just benefit his own stats, but benefits the team as well as finds them the win. And that's definitely the progress we needed.
And you need the assists to go up, up, up.
Right.
Because you have the opportunity there to really enter double territory. And you saw Trey White do that. You saw FB do that. You saw Tiller do that. You saw Council do that. I was very pleased overall with the entire performance on the floor for the KU men. Mm-hmm. On the flip side, the KU women happen to have one player that's really standing out, and that is Jalea Davis on a rather consistent basis. I think she just keeps churning out 30-point performances. I think that's the only thing she knows how to do because of how we saw her play earlier this week, albeit still a loss for them. She is really a special talent, and I think it's truly remarkable the run that she's on. And
that's the type of stat line you want to see. You know, I'm not mad at her for posting 30-point games, 30 pieces a week. I mean, that's definitely good for her. She is incredible. When you see her in the paint, beware if you are an opponent trying to defend her because she knows how to get to the hole. She knows how to score. She's right there. She knows how to make a three-point play. I mean, she really is valuable. She is unstoppable. She's like a brick wall standing there under the hoop. And I really liked seeing the benefit that she's brought to this team. Now, granted, again, though, you have this star player and the Jayhawks aren't necessarily winning every week. Only 1-3 right now in the Big 12. But to see her stand-up performances, it kind of is questioning, like, what is it that's, going wrong when you have a player like that on your roster?
Yeah, I think it could be a similar situation to where they have one spotlight player where they are really struggling to kind of build on it together as a team. The thing I do like about Jalea is she reminds me a lot of Nate Johnson's game, right? She's good underneath the net. She's good outside the arc. I mean, she does pretty much everything for this squad. There has not been a game where I haven't seen her go on a run just because of how smooth she is with the ball. And, you see the highlights there, the pictures there of her going up against Mizzou. She has eyes for the rim. And this is really a natural talent when it comes to the floor. The question is how does KU women, do they put the pieces together to get to where they need to go? I think this is, they've played a lot of teams that are not, necessarily on the top echelon of the conference so far, or non-conference rather. So I think that's kind of part of the reason why they have such a solid record right now. I need to see more difficult competition for me to sort of really gauge how good and successful they can be down the stretch. But definitely banking on Jalea, I think, is a key to success for them, at least at this point.
And we have seen Cymone Nichols. She was a great player
Right.
over the years as well, and she's still standing out. This past week, this past game, she had 23 points, while Julia put up 30 against Oklahoma State. So, definitely still have players on that team. Definitely have a lot of people who know how to score. Leah Canessa, I mean, so many. Meister. This team actually shot really well from three. So, 50%. So to see them, still... It's going to be a struggle. It's going to be a fight, and I think it's how you start, setting the tone early. They got 4 quarters to go, but you don't want to be behind. They actually did lead through the first, but started to trail in the second, and then that, I feel like, kind of put them in a hole going into the second half, and that's not what you want. You want to make sure that you're staying in it from the start of the game and making use of all of your athletes to make sure you're finding that way, that what works for you, the technique you need to come out with a win.
Yeah, and Julia is about as talented as it gets when it comes to the floor. One final thing we'll say here before we conclude another week of double coverage. We've got high school hoops headed your way on Friday night. Lots of different teams we've got locally here in our area. Very quickly, Asia, we've got you at Northwest for a Northwest Heights matchup. That one should be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I mean, we talk a lot about these teams because they're both looking really good. Heights, again, just playing incredible. Northwest doing a great job, finding some big wins and stuff, but we're still kind of fresh off the break. So, this is kind of a transition point to see how well athletes were able to keep up with their fitness workouts over the holiday.
Yep.
And I think we have lots of good teams. I mean, it's really hard to know exactly which ones stand out the most right now, but I'm very excited to see Northwest and Heights. I mean, that's definitely a must-watch one.
All right, and we're going to bring you those highlights as part of our brand new basketball show, KSN Courtside, Friday nights at 10:15. So that'll be a lot of fun. Plenty more games to talk about coming up next week. But for now, Michael Emami
And Asia Cymone Smith
signing off on another week of double coverage. Thanks for joining us.